Arun walked slowly through the narrow streets of the alien city, his eyes lifted to the glowing towers that rose high above him. The city of Vero was unlike anything he had ever known on Earth. The buildings seemed alive, shaped like tall crystals, and the air shimmered faintly with lights that floated in patterns across the sky. Yet for all its beauty, Arun often felt out of place. Humans were few here, scattered among the taller, graceful citizens of this world. One evening, after a long day of helping at the trade docks, Arun decided to take a different path home. He climbed a quiet stairwell hidden between two tall towers. The steps were old, cracked in places, and seemed rarely used. Higher and higher he went, until the sounds of the busy streets below faded into silence. At last, he reached a small iron gate at the top. It looked forgotten, half covered in vines. Curiosity tugged at him. He pushed the gate gently, and to his surprise, it opened with a soft creak. What lay beyond stole his breath away. Before him stretched a rooftop unlike any he had imagined. A garden spread across the stone surface, wild and alive, filled with plants that glowed faintly under the night sky. Long vines hung from carved arches, their leaves shimmering silver. Flowers of deep blue and violet opened like stars, giving off a soft, calming light. Small streams of water ran in thin channels, singing as they moved. The air smelled sweet, a mix of unknown blossoms and fresh rain. Arun stepped carefully inside, his boots brushing against soft moss. It felt unreal, like walking into a dream hidden above the city. As he moved further, he heard a faint sound, the rustle of leaves, followed by a gentle hum. He froze. Someone was there. From behind a tall flowering tree, a figure appeared. She was slender, her skin faintly glowing like moonlight. Her hair, long and dark with a silver sheen, seemed to flow like water as she walked. Her eyes were bright and watchful, carrying both caution and wonder. She wore a simple robe woven from light fabrics that shifted colors softly, blending with the garden around her. For a long moment, neither spoke. Arun felt his heart race. He had seen the alien people of this world in the streets, in the markets, even at the docks. But here, in this secret garden, this girl looked different. She seemed a part of the place itself. Finally, she tilted her head slightly and spoke, her voice soft but steady. "This place is not for strangers." Arun swallowed, unsure what to say. I didn't mean to intrude. I was just exploring, and I found the gate open. I didn't know anyone was here." Her gaze stayed sharp, but not unkind. She studied him for a moment longer before replying. "Most walk below, never noticing the garden above them. You are the first human I have seen climb this high." Arun felt a small smile tug at his lips. "Then maybe I was lucky." The girl did not smile back, but her eyes softened. She stepped closer, though still keeping a small distance. "Luck, or something else. Few would come here without reason." Arun looked around at the glowing flowers and streams. "It's beautiful," he said honestly. "I've never seen anything like it." The girl's expression changed slightly, almost like pride. "It is called the Lyra Garden. Long ago, it was built as a place of peace. Now, most have forgotten it." Her words carried a quiet sadness. Arun could hear it, and he wondered why she stayed here when the rest of the city seemed so alive below. But he did not ask. Instead, he simply nodded. "Well, I'm glad I found it." She studied him once more, then turned slightly, as if deciding something within herself. "If you wish to walk here, walk gently. The plants listen. The water remembers. Arun chuckled softly, not to mock her but because the words felt both strange and wise. I'll be careful, he promised. For the first time, her lips curved in the smallest of smiles. It was quick, fleeting, but enough to make his heart beat faster. As the night deepened, Arun stayed in the garden, wandering among the glowing plants while the girl watched him from a distance. He did not know her name, nor why she guarded this hidden place, but he felt something stir inside him. This rooftop garden was more than a secret, it was alive, full of beauty and mystery. And the girl, silent and graceful among the blossoms, seemed to be at the center of it all. When Arun finally turned to leave, he glanced back at her. She stood beneath a silver vine, the glow wrapping around her like a halo. She did not speak, but her eyes followed him until the gate closed behind him. As he walked down the stairwell, Arun felt certain of one thing. He would return. The next evening, Arun found himself climbing the same narrow stairwell again. All day he had tried to focus on his work at the docks, carrying crates and answering questions from the merchants, but his thoughts kept drifting back to the hidden rooftop. More than the glowing flowers or the silver vines, it was the memory of the girl's watchful eyes that drew him back. When he reached the iron gate, he hesitated. What if she didn't want him there? What if she had locked the place after his first visit? Slowly, he pushed at the gate. It opened with the same soft creak. The garden waited, glowing under the stars. He stepped inside quietly, not wishing to disturb the peace. The sound of running water filled the air, along with the gentle hum of insects that shimmered with tiny wings of light. Arun walked among the flowers, breathing in their sweet scent, until a voice rose behind him. You returned. He turned quickly and saw her again. She stood near the flowering tree where she had first appeared, her robe shifting colors with the breeze. This time, there was less suspicion in her gaze, though still a hint of caution. I did, Arun admitted, scratching the back of his neck. I wasn't sure if I should. But I couldn't forget this place, or you. The girl tilted her head, her silver dark hair falling softly over her shoulder. Humans are curious creatures. And you're not? Arun asked lightly. For the first time, she let out a small laugh. It was soft, almost like the rustle of leaves. Perhaps I am. Otherwise, I would not allow you to stand here again. Arun smiled at that. He stepped closer, careful to walk gently as she had asked the night before. He noticed the way her hands moved gracefully as she touched the leaves of a vine, almost as if greeting them. What do you do here? Arun asked. I care for the plants, she replied. I water them, sing to them, listen when they speak. Arun raised his brows. Plants speak. They do, she said simply. Not in words you would know, but in changes you can feel if you listen long enough. Arun knelt by a flower that glowed faintly blue. He touched its petal gently, feeling its cool surface. He tried to imagine what she meant, though to him the plant was just a plant. Still, there was something calming about it. You believe me not, the girl observed, watching him closely. I believe, Arun said slowly, that you see more than I can. Maybe humans are too quick, too restless to notice what you notice. Her eyes softened again. Perhaps. But you stopped here. That means you notice more than most. The words warmed him. Arun looked up at her. I still don't know your name. There was a pause before she answered. Lyra. The sound of it felt right, like it belonged to the garden itself. Lyra, he repeated with a smile. I'm Arun. She nodded, repeating his name softly as if testing it. Arun. The two of them began walking together, moving through the garden's glowing paths. Lyra pointed out flowers that only bloomed when the moon was high, vines that curled around stone as if hugging it, and a tree whose leaves turned silver at night. Arun listened carefully, asking questions, sometimes joking, and sometimes falling into quiet awe at her knowledge. In return, he told her about Earth. He described gardens filled with roses, tulips, and sunflowers that followed the sun's path across the sky. He spoke of music played in open parks, where children ran and laughter filled the air. Lyra listened closely, her eyes wide with wonder at the thought of flowers that followed light and songs sung among trees. You carry many stories, she said at last. Your world sounds alive in ways I have never seen. And your world feels alive in ways I never imagined, Arun replied. Maybe we're both learning. They paused near the stone archway where water trickled down into a clear pool. The reflection of the stars danced on its surface, mingling with the glow of the flowers. For a moment, they stood in silence, sharing the view. Why do you come here? Arun asked softly. Lyra's eyes lowered. Because the world below is loud. Too loud. Here, I can hear myself. Here, I can breathe. Arun understood. Even as a visitor, he too sometimes felt drowned in the noise of the alien city, lost among towering strangers. The garden was different. It gave space to breathe, to feel. I think I know what you mean, he said gently. She looked at him then, really looked, and for a moment, the distance between them felt smaller. Her gaze held warmth now, not just caution. As the night stretched on, Arun realized he did not want to leave. Yet when the stars began to fade, he knew he must. He turned to her with a quiet smile. May I come again? Lyra hesitated, then nodded once. If you walk gently. Arun laughed softly. I promise. When he left the garden, his steps down the stairwell felt lighter than before. He carried her name in his heart and the sound of her soft laugh in his mind. Already, he looked forward to returning. The rooftop garden soon became Arun's favorite place in the entire alien city. Each evening, after finishing his long work at the docks, he found his feet carrying him back to the hidden stairwell, back to the quiet iron gate, and into the glowing beauty above the world. And each evening, he hoped to find Lyra waiting there. She was always there. Sometimes she was watering the vines with a small silver jug, sometimes she was singing softly as she touched the flowers, and sometimes she was simply sitting by the pool, watching the stars reflected in its surface. No matter what she was doing, she always noticed him. At first her smile was small and cautious, but slowly it began to brighten, as if she too had grown used to his presence. They began to spend more time walking side by side, sharing stories about their worlds. Arun spoke of Earth's rainstorms, where children would dance in puddles and laugh as the water splashed around them. Lyra listened with wide eyes, surprised that rain could be a source of joy. In return, she told him about the time when her people once used the garden for gatherings, where voices sang in harmony and glowing lanterns filled the night sky. Arun loved the way her words painted pictures in his mind. She spoke gently, her voice rising and falling like music, and he often forgot the noise of the city below. The garden seemed to exist outside of time, a world only they shared. One evening, Arun brought something with him. As he entered the garden, he pulled a small piece of folded paper from his pocket. With a smile, he held it out to Lyra. What is this? She asked, tilting her head. It's a bird, he explained, carefully unfolding the paper and then folding it again in front of her eyes. On Earth, this is something we call origami. It's just paper, folded into shapes. I thought I'd make you one. Lyra took the finished bird in her hands and studied it as if it were precious. It cannot fly, she said softly. No, Arun admitted, laughing. But it carries a piece of my world. And maybe when you look at it, you'll think of me. Lyra glanced at him, her eyes shining in the soft glow of the flowers. I will. The simple exchange warmed Arun's heart. To his surprise, Lyra reached into the folds of her robe and drew out a glowing petal, its light pulsing faintly like a heartbeat. This flower blooms only once every 100 nights, she explained. I give you this so you will not forget me, either. Arun held the petal carefully, amazed by its gentle light. I won't forget, he promised. From that night onward, the bond between them grew deeper. Their laughter echoed softly in the garden as they told stories, teased each other about their differences, and sometimes simply sat in silence, enjoying the peace. Arun noticed how Lyra's eyes sparkled when she spoke of the stars, and how her voice grew tender when she sang to the plants. Lyra, in turn, watched how Arun listened with full attention, never mocking her words, always curious about her world. But with the closeness also came a quiet awareness. Some nights, when the wind grew still, Arun found his heart beating faster when their shoulders brushed as they walked too close together. He caught himself staring at the soft glow of her skin, the way it blended with the silver light of the garden. Lyra, too, sometimes hesitated when she looked at him, as if surprised by her own thoughts. One evening, Arun asked her, "Do others ever come here anymore?" Lyra shook her head. No. They have forgotten. They do not care for the garden as I do. Then it's just ours, Arun said without thinking. She looked at him in surprise, then lowered her gaze. A faint smile touched her lips, though she did not answer. That small moment stayed with both of them. The garden was no longer simply a hidden place above the city. It was becoming their world, a secret where their friendship, laughter, and growing feelings lived. As days turned into weeks, Arun noticed that he no longer felt like a stranger in the alien city. The crowded markets, the tall towers, the noise of the streets, all of it felt lighter because he knew that at the end of the day, the garden waited for him. And in the garden, Lyra waited too. One night, as the moon hung full above them, Arun and Lyra sat by the pool together. The stars reflected clearly in the water, as if the sky itself had fallen into their hands. Arun glanced at her and felt the words rising in his chest, words he did not yet dare to speak. Instead, he only smiled and said softly, I think this place is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. Lyra turned to him, her eyes reflecting both the stars and the glow of the garden. Perhaps it is, she replied gently. But in that moment, Arun was no longer sure if he was speaking about the garden at all. The city of Vero was alive with sound and color. From the streets far below, music rose like waves, and lights danced across the sky. It was the night of the Festival of Radiance, a celebration held once every season. Lanterns shaped like glowing spheres floated into the air, carrying wishes written by the people. Drums beat in steady rhythms, while voices sang together in languages Arun still struggled to understand. Arun had almost forgotten about the festival until he climbed the stairwell that evening. The garden greeted him with its usual calm, but the noise and lights from below spilled into the night sky, adding a new kind of energy. Lyra was waiting, as always. She stood near the archway, her robe shimmering with the reflection of the festival lights. When Arun entered, She turned to him, her expression softer than usual, as if she too felt the strange magic of the night. "The city is alive tonight," she said, her voice carrying a quiet wonder. Arun walked closer, smiling. "Yes. I've never seen so many lights before. On Earth, we have festivals too, but this feels different." Together, they moved to the edge of the rooftop. From there, the whole city spread out beneath them. Rivers of light filled the streets as lanterns rose into the sky, floating upward like stars being born. The people below sang and laughed, their joy echoing up to where Arun and Lyra stood. For a long time, they watched in silence. Arun felt his heart beating faster, not just from the beauty of the festival but from the closeness of Lyra standing beside him. Her shoulder brushed his lightly, and though it was a small touch, it sent a warmth through him. "Do you join the festival?" Arun asked. Lyra shook her head. "No, I have not gone below for many seasons. The noise is too heavy. I prefer to watch from here." Arun glanced at her. "Then I'm glad I'm here too. Watching with you feels better." Her lips curved in the faintest smile, and she turned her gaze back to the glowing lanterns. One drifted higher than the others, glowing gold against the deep night sky. She lifted her hand slightly, as if reaching for it. "In our tradition," she said softly, "we write our hopes on the lanterns. They rise into the sky so that the stars may hear them." Arun leaned on the stone railing, curious. "What kind of hopes?" "Anything," she replied. "Some ask for joy, some for peace, some for love." The last word lingered in the air between them. Arun felt his breath catch, but Lyra's gaze remained on the lanterns. He wondered what she would write if she had joined the crowd below. He wondered if her hopes would be anything like his own. To distract himself, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small piece of paper and a pencil stub he had been carrying. He quickly scribbled something on the page, then folded it into a tiny square. "We don't have lanterns," he said, holding it out to her, "but maybe we can still make a wish." Lyra looked at him curiously but accepted the folded paper. "And what is your wish?" she asked. Arun grinned. "If I tell you, it won't come true." She gave a soft laugh, then held the paper gently in her hands. "Then I will keep it safe." She tucked it into her robe, as if it were something precious. The sound of drums grew louder, echoing even up to the rooftop. Arun could see fireworks beginning to spark over the city, bursts of green and red lighting the night. Their glow reflected in Lyra's eyes, and for a moment, Arun forgot the noise, the lights, and even the city below. All he saw was her. "Do you ever feel," Arun asked quietly, "that this garden is above the world, like it's not part of anything else?" Lyra turned to him slowly. "Yes. That is why I come here. It is like a dream, hidden from all others." Arun nodded. "And I'm glad I found it." "I'm glad I found you." She lowered her gaze, and for a moment, her calm expression broke into something softer, shy, almost uncertain. "You speak with such ease," she whispered. "Maybe because it's the truth," he replied simply. The two stood close as the fireworks painted the sky in waves of color. Arun wanted to say more, to tell her what he felt, but the words stayed in his chest, heavy and unspoken. He knew it was too soon, yet he also knew his heart was already reaching for hers. As the festival below reached its peak, lanterns rose higher and higher until the night seemed filled with a second sky. Arun and Lyra stood side by side, their shoulders brushing, their silence filled with more meaning than any words could carry. When the last lantern drifted beyond sight, the garden returned to its quiet glow. The noise of the city softened, but the warmth of the night remained between them. For the first time, Arun felt that the garden was not just a secret, it was theirs, a place where the world's noise could not reach, and where their hearts spoke in ways neither fully understood yet. And as he left that night, he carried with him the image of Lyra's smile lit by lantern light, a memory he knew would never fade. The nights after the festival seemed even more precious to Arun. The rooftop garden had always felt special, but now it carried a deeper meaning. He could not stop thinking about the way Lyra had smiled under the drifting lantern light, or how her voice had softened when she spoke of wishes. Every evening, he hurried through his work so he could climb the hidden stairwell, eager to see her again. But slowly, the peace of their secret meetings began to change. One evening, as Arun walked through the market streets before heading to the rooftop, he noticed the way some of the alien citizens looked at him. Whispers followed his steps. He had grown used to being a human among taller, glowing figures, but this was different. Their eyes lingered too long, and their voices carried tones he did not understand. When he reached the rooftop gate, he found Lyra waiting. Yet this time, her face did not brighten at his arrival. Her eyes carried a shadow of worry. "You must be careful," she said quietly, before he could even greet her. Arun frowned. "Careful? Why?" She looked away, her fingers brushing nervously against a vine. "There are whispers. Some have seen you climbing here often. They wonder why. They ask questions I do not want to answer." Arun felt his chest tighten. "Do they know about you?" Lyra shook her head. "Not yet. But if they look closer, they will. And they will not understand." Her words filled the garden with a sudden heaviness. Arun glanced around at the glowing plants, the peaceful water, the arches that had always felt safe. For the first time, the garden seemed fragile, like it could vanish if others stepped inside. He stepped closer to her. "Do you want me to stop coming?" Her eyes met his then, and for a moment, all her worry showed. "No," she whispered, almost too softly to hear. "But it may be dangerous if you do." Arun felt torn. The thought of leaving her, of giving up the only place in the city where he felt truly alive, was unbearable. Yet the thought of bringing her trouble was just as heavy. He tried to smile, though it did not reach his eyes. "I can be careful. I'll come when no one is watching. I promise." Lyra sighed, as if the promise brought only half comfort. She turned and began walking along the glowing paths, her steps slower than usual. Arun followed, his mind restless. They spoke less that night. Their usual laughter and stories were replaced by long silences. Every sound from the city below seemed louder, every flicker of movement at the edges of the rooftop made them both glance nervously. The garden was still beautiful, but now it felt as though shadows were creeping into its light. Arun tried to lighten the moment. As they stopped by the pool, he pulled the glowing petal she had once given him from his pocket. Holding it up, he said softly, "When I look at this, I remember that some things are too bright to be hidden forever." Lyra looked at the petal in his hand, her expression unreadable. Then, slowly, she smiled again, though it was faint. "You hold on to simple things as if they are treasures." "They are treasures," Arun replied, meeting her gaze. "Because they come from you." Her smile deepened slightly, and for a heartbeat, the tension eased. But soon the worry returned to her eyes. "You do not understand my people, Arun. They do not see humans as equals. They would never approve of us, of this." Her voice broke gently at the end, and she looked away. Arun wanted to reach for her hand, to tell her that the opinions of others did not matter, but the weight of her words held him back. The night grew colder. When Arun finally rose to leave, Lyra walked with him to the gate. She stood there, framed by the silver vines, her expression troubled. "Be careful," she said again, her voice soft but urgent. "I will," Arun promised. "And I'll come back. Always." She hesitated, as if wanting to say more, but in the end, she only nodded. Arun stepped through the gate, the creak of its hinges echoing louder than ever before. As he walked down the stairwell, his thoughts churned. He had found something beautiful in the garden, something he could not let go. Yet the fear in Lyra's eyes haunted him. The whispers were real. The danger was real. For the first time, Arun wondered if their secret might not stay hidden much longer. The days that followed felt heavy for Arun. He still climbed the hidden stairwell each evening, but the joy that once filled his steps was now mixed with unease. The whispers in the streets had not stopped. Sometimes he felt eyes following him, strangers pausing too long as he passed. Yet nothing could keep him away from the rooftop garden. The thought of Lyra waiting there was stronger than his fear. One evening, the sky above the city turned dark with heavy clouds. The glowing towers that usually shone with steady light flickered under the rolling thunder. Arun looked up as he hurried toward the stairwell, the air already sharp with the scent of rain. He almost turned back, but the thought of the garden pulled him forward. When he pushed open the iron gate, he found Lyra standing by the pool, her gaze lifted to the storming sky. The glow of the flowers around her seemed dimmer, as if even the garden sensed the coming storm. "You came," she said softly, turning toward him. "I had to," Arun replied. "Even if the skies fall, I would still come here." A small smile touched her lips, but it faded quickly as thunder rumbled again. "The garden does not often see storms," she said. "When they come, they test the strength of every leaf and root." Arun stepped closer, his heart strangely restless. The storm seemed to mirror the weight inside him, the fear of discovery, the growing closeness he could no longer deny. The first drops of rain fell, cool against his skin. Then the sky broke open, and water poured down in heavy sheets. Within moments, Arun and Lyra were soaked, the rain running down their faces and clothes. The glowing flowers bent under the weight of the water, their light flickering. "Quick, this way!" Lyra called, her voice raised above the rain. She ran toward the stone archway at the far end of the garden, and Arun followed. They ducked under the shelter, pressed close together as the storm raged around them. The archway was small, carved of smooth stone, its roof just wide enough to keep most of the rain away. Still, drops slid down the sides, falling in silver streaks. The air was filled with the roar of rain and the deep cracks of thunder. Arun looked at Lyra. Her hair clung to her face, her robe darkened with water, yet she seemed more radiant than ever. The soft glow of her skin shone faintly through the storm, and her eyes, bright and steady, met his. For a long moment, they said nothing. The noise of the storm wrapped around them, leaving only the sound of their breathing inside the small shelter. Arun's heart pounded. He wanted to tell her everything that he thought of her every hour of the day, that the garden was no longer just a place but a home because of her, that he feared losing her more than anything else. But the words caught in his throat, heavy with uncertainty. Instead, his hand moved almost on its own. Slowly, gently, it brushed against hers. Lyra did not pull away. She looked down at their hands, then back up at him. Her lips parted slightly, as if she, too, wished to speak but could not. Then, in silence, she turned her hand and held his. The warmth of her touch spread through him, stronger than the storm outside. They sat there, side by side, their hands joined. No words were spoken, yet everything was said. The thunder rolled, the rain poured, but inside the archway, time seemed to stop. Arun felt her presence more deeply than he had ever felt anyone's. He could see the same truth in her eyes, that whatever lay between them was real, even if the world outside would never accept it. At last, Lyra spoke, her voice barely a whisper. Sometimes silence carries more than words. Arun nodded, his throat too tight to reply. He simply tightened his hold on her hand, letting the gesture speak for him. The storm lasted long into the night, but neither of them moved. They watched the rain fall on the glowing flowers, listened to the water rushing through the channels, and felt the thunder shake the air. Yet none of it frightened them anymore. The storm had brought them closer, binding them with a confession that needed no sound. When the rain finally softened and the first stars began to break through the clouds, Arun and Lyra stepped out from the archway. The garden glistened, every leaf and petal shining with droplets of water that reflected the moonlight. It was more beautiful than ever, alive with silver sparkles. Arun looked at her, his voice finally steady. The storm has passed. Lyra met his gaze, her eyes gentle. Yes. But some storms remain in the heart. He knew what she meant: the danger, the whispers, the uncertainty of what lay ahead. But as they walked together among the shining petals, still holding hands, Arun also knew one thing with certainty. Whatever storms awaited them, they would face them together. The storm had passed, leaving the city below washed in quiet light. The streets were empty now, except for the soft glimmer of lanterns left floating from the festival. Arun climbed the narrow stairwell with a calm in his heart he had not felt before. He was eager to see Lyra, yet he felt a quiet excitement that went deeper than curiosity. It was hope. When he opened the iron gate, the garden greeted him with a serene glow. The petals sparkled with drops of rain, and the water in the streams reflected the first stars beginning to shine in the clear night sky. Lyra stood near the stone archway, her hair still damp, her robe gently shifting with the soft breeze. "You came," she said softly, her lips curving into a small smile. "I promised," Arun replied, stepping closer. "I'll always come." Her eyes softened. For a moment, neither spoke. The night seemed to hold them in a private world, far from the noise and judgment of the city below. "This garden," Lyra began, her voice low, "it has always been a place of peace for me. But now it feels alive in a different way. Because of you." Arun reached for her hand, their fingers intertwining naturally. "And you," he said, "have made it more than a garden. You've made it home." They walked slowly along the glowing paths, letting the soft light of flowers guide them. Each step felt like a small promise, a quiet understanding shared without words. Arun noticed the way Lyra's eyes reflected the starlight, how her presence seemed to make the garden breathe more freely, how even the smallest movements of her hands carried a gentle grace. As they reached the pool, Arun paused. The water reflected their images, the stars and the glowing flowers, merging all into one perfect moment. He looked at Lyra and felt the words he had held back all these weeks rise to the surface. "I don't know what the world will say," he began gently, "or if anyone below will ever understand. But here, in this garden, with you, I know one thing. I care for you more than I can say." Lyra's eyes widened slightly, a faint blush rising across her cheeks. "Arun," she whispered, her hand squeezing his lightly. I don't need answers now, he continued. I just want you to know that wherever we are, whatever storms come, I will be here. With you. Always. For a long moment, they simply held each other's hands, standing quietly by the pool. The world outside the rooftop had rules, dangers, and doubts. But here, they could be themselves. Here, they could feel what they had come to know in their hearts. Lyra finally lifted her gaze to him, her voice calm but certain. I was afraid before. Afraid of what others would think. Afraid of losing this garden, and losing you. But I see now that the garden is strongest when shared. And I do not want to hide from this feeling any longer. Arun smiled, a warm, gentle smile that reached his eyes. Then we will face the world together. But tonight, let us just be here. Let the garden hold our promise. They walked among the glowing flowers, tracing their fingers along the silver vines. The soft hum of the garden, the trickle of water, and the gentle rustle of leaves seemed to celebrate their presence. Arun reached for a flower that had bloomed only after the storm and gently handed it to Lyra. It's for you, he said simply. A reminder of tonight, of what we share. Lyra accepted it with a soft laugh, tucking the flower into her robe. And I will keep it, as I keep you, in the heart of the garden. For the first time, they sat side by side on the stone bench beneath the arches, letting the quiet night hold them. Stars reflected in the pool, petals shimmered under the moonlight, and the garden seemed to glow brighter than ever. Arun felt a peace that went deeper than any he had ever known. I think this will always be our place, he said quietly. Yes, Lyra replied, leaning slightly closer. A secret no one can take. A promise we make to ourselves. The night stretched on, and the first hints of dawn colored the sky above the city. Arun and Lyra remained in the garden, watching the world awaken below them, but knowing that their hearts were bound here, in this hidden rooftop paradise. And so, the garden became more than a secret. It became a home for their growing love, a place where two hearts, human and alien, met under the stars, safe from judgment, safe from fear. No matter what the future held, they would always return to this place, to this promise, and to each other. The hidden rooftop garden whispered around them, alive with petals, light, and water, celebrating the bond of two souls who had found one another. And in that quiet, radiant world above the city, Arun and Lyra knew they had discovered something rare and eternal, the beauty of love shared in a world that would never fully understand, but would always shine for them.